while we're live, and those who will come later, we have discussed this specific topic, but not with a live. So where's my title? Hold on a minute. Learning to descend trends. Discern, not descend. Well, descend. Let's think about that one. I'll look it up later. But welcome aboard, everybody who's going to be coming in and out. 5D Mystic here, mentor, content creator, podcast host. And in fact, just as I think of the title, I'm like, there's a bunch of people who are going to be like, excuse me, you lady want to talk about discerning trends? Yes, I do. So learning to discern trends, again, not descend, at most ascend. But also I use words wrong, just FYI. Anyways, these ones I looked up. So learning to discern trends from what actually works to build wellness, micro habits, and mindset practices, resilience. Okay, so you'll see there's a lovely little picture I put up. That's for the free PDF that is on PayHip for those who like to do a ventral pivot. Okay, so number one, the whole trend thing became a topic of concern, no, of interest, because I was doing the yucky dopamine dance. And I found out that there's this dopamine detox, trend that goes around. It's been around probably for a while. And so, anyways, between the dopamine detox trend and this predictable crash zone, that's actually what initiated my entire, oh wow, okay, this is a trend, it actually doesn't work, and it's because for this free PDF that I'm offering on PayHip for those who do the ventral pivot, when you're under stress, whether it's work, whether it's family, whatever it is, we're the owners of our nervous system, okay? So I don't tend to do 1, 2, 3s, but I'm going to try to do that here as we are a number of people that don't know me, and I don't know you either. But number one, how do we discern? Well, we discern because we're epistemically curious. So that means you are a person who likes to learn. It also means that we know it's not social media that creates trends. Actively, humanity creates trends. And really, we need to thank our lovely academics and researchers and the people who build the knowledge, and even the storytellers, even though this is the part of where, as a mystic and spiritual one, the embodied spiritual experience that I have, I don't find them just stories, but I also don't find the whole evil stories true. So I'm an in-between, and we're going to get to maybe some of that later on, not today. Here, as I want to really focus on wellness, micro habits, and mindset, because the free PDF is for people who own their nervous system, and spiritual or not doesn't matter, because what I've also noticed, I've been around, I'm 46, but I've been around and being a person who's a Reiki master, Akashic record reader. I know about the plane of infinite possibilities and all these amazing things. I have 3 twin flames, amazing stories. There was always one thing missing as I was going through my own ascension, and it was the human stuff, my embodied brain stuff, which I got to learn about because I do inner growth mindset practices for people who do personal growth. The spiritual growth is bonus. You don't have to be spiritual. I don't need to prove it. In fact, actually, faith and courage and spirit, to me, is not about proving it at all. Scientists get to be the ones who peer review each other and prove things, and then they have egos in the room. And in fact, if they're healed egos, they have a fun time. So people who know how to discern have a fun time with knowledge. People who are spiritual don't dismiss those who are different, and they also don't use our ancient ancestor stories anymore to be divisive. As the only ones who are really using medieval time stories are the same ones who, I'm not going to say they control, I'm just going to say they all live in the same shame, and what else? Yesterday we talked about this. Shame and divisiveness come from those who are not capable of knowing how to welcome differences in the absence of being my way is right and your way is right and wrong. And so ego, when it's insecure, does this little I'm going to prove it dance, and those who are not needing to prove ourselves are like, okay, wow, could have came across a little bit differently with this knowledge. So discerning is the capacity to be able to know I have effective realism, I have strong emotions, I have personality, I have temperament, I have a story. Maria does have faith in God, but you don't have to believe in God. You can call me a woo-woo, and I am pseudoscience because I'm not science, but I learn from scientists. So peer-reviewed, and number one, FYI, there's going to be an addition to this episode, because when I did the one on dopamine detox, we all have dopamine, even when we're happy. or when we're mad. No, mad I don't think. But the point is that it's part of how we're motivated to take action. And I'm not the chemist of our emotional plane. So once I learned this, I was like, shit, I've been saying yucky dopamine, but I have dopamine too. In fact, actually on Spotify, and I'm going to post a live later on Spotify. So when you hear me on Spotify, people, it was one of the most listened to episodes. I was like, yeah, that's good, because probably smart people are like, okay, are you done with the whole let's do the dopamine detox thing? So when you look at this dopamine detox, they say it temporarily recalibrates your brain's reward system by limiting overstimulating addictive behaviors like endless scrolling or gaming. That's not going to be effective, by the way, because as lovely Dr. Daniel Fox presents with addictions, he says there's a matched reason. There's a job it does. So it's all about regulation. So when you do self-regulate, that's why the free PDF with the ventral pivot is for people like, oh, I know when I'm getting stressed. I know when I'm an emotional, not wreck, but when I have emotions. That's the whole point of building micro habits that are for wellness. It is intentional living, but you need to be able to consciously make that choice when effective realism is at play. So I'm not going to be angry to the extent of let me go and belittle someone. Today I came across some neuroscience on Instagram. I was hopeful. I thought it was a good Instagram site because it said good neuroscience. That alone should have given it away. Like if someone has to specify it's true, it's like, wait a minute. So the slides they had, in one of them it said, resilience is not accessible to all. And I was like, no, we're complex systems. Actively, resilience is every human being's capacity. Like some might have a little bit less, some have more, some might use bad resilience, but everyone has it. So as I'm doing, thank goodness we have the capacity to do research with a very quick, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, whoever it is, like, okay, wait, is this true? What's the peer-reviewed stuff on this? So I found out it's not true. Resilience is, in fact, peer-reviewed studies show that it is, where's my words? I have notes. They're really crappy notes. Give me a minute. It's not binary. It's dynamic. And in fact, it explained things that I know. That's why the mindset practices, the journal prompts are for people who build good resilience, because you are the owner of. So besides that lovely PDF on PayHip, for those who do the ventral pivot, there's your sovereign blueprint. That's for those who want a foundational experience, information, practices, because you're already using your nervous system. So you know about when you're activated, and you're welcoming to work with your 3-year-old. You're not doing child work. You're welcoming to work with your nervous system, your emotions. You know that you're not contagious. Others aren't contagious. So wellness micro habits are every day with your embodied brain being owned with the left and the chit chatter and the right where emotions come up. And that's our bilateral vertical overall integrated brain. So whenever I'm coming across information I think is going to be great for humanity, I'm like, damn it, there's another one. And then I think of what I share with you all, and I fuck it up too. I make mistakes. I try and come in and say, hey, I made a mistake on that thing. Okay, so we all will want to contribute and support each other, but here's the part about why learning to discern trends from what actually works. It's that there's a number of spiritual and somatic bypassers. I'm going to group them in our 3D, 4D collective is what I call them, as I'm from the 5D plane of existence. It means I'm a person who's able to reassure my 0-1-year-old and my 3-year-old. And when I found out about how panic attacks work, I thank Therapy Nutshell Lady for educating me. And I know what a window of tolerance is, and I know how to expand mine, and I consistently do that. Okay, so that's the ventral pivot. Discerning means I can read something, not get angry about it to the point of where I say, I want to live, but it is right, that feels right. We're all feels, so let's all acknowledge it, but my emotional truth might not be welcomed by all. And I can acknowledge that and not feel like I just got, crushed by a semi or something, because that's how it works when you own your heart. So yeah, we all actually, with rejection, the part of the brain that lights up, and these are data, so whenever I'm speaking, I get it from smart people. I just sometimes fuck up the words. And sometimes I fall for, like, I didn't fall for the dopamine detox. I just thought that I didn't have dopamine all the time either. Probably that works the same with us. But anyways, let me put that to the side. So number one, peer reviews. Actually, you know who does a great job at informing us on how to discern? Look up Neil deGrasse, his channel on YouTube. He has an episode, I think it's a couple weeks ago, where he lists green and yellow and red sources. I'm pretty sure I'm a yellow source. Some people might say I'm a red source just because they will be not really open to understanding that I come in a very, I hop here and there and everywhere. And my point for this episode is sharing stories, having laughs, but also saying, how do you learn to discern from trends? What works is that you're always putting your best foot forward and you're emotional first. That's the number one key. Anyone who's saying they're not emotional, it's not true. We're all emotional, and it's our nervous system that is being activated when we're all emotional. So the difference is, like Pat Ogden says, in fact, in your Sovereign Blueprint, there's Pat Ogden, I mentioned her. We learn how to autonomously self-regulate if we had enough of that environment that was safe. So my 3-year-old, she's safe. People who didn't have the safe environment, they don't know how to autonomously self-regulate. And then they have a challenge self-regulating with another. So this dopamine detox, it's bullshit because we all have dopamine. What you want to learn how to do, one, peer-reviewed stuff, but really, how well do you know yourself? Okay, so if you can self-regulate, great. You're on board with personal growth and spiritual growth. That means you own all your child parts. It means that none of them get shamed. So no, it's no shadow work, it's no child work. Those people who use those words, I'm like, don't disrespect the mindful good therapists out there who are helping people to integrate that implicit memory. Because see, here's the one thing. You can go and get all the Reiki, Akashic record readings, all the spiritual tools that I offer too. I've had plenty of people who come to me for it. You don't know your child stuff, you don't welcome your child self, you don't do any of that integration. It's all just a bunch of, well, let's think. How can I break it down without being the person who says, I know the right way for you, since I'm a 3-year-old like anybody else, so every ego wants to choose for itself what to do. And that's actually the part. Blind egos, they stay like the Cains of the world, insecure, and they just play pretend. They have fun though. 3D40 is going to have fun with their fantasy stories, and they're continuously going to use that which they use best. Stories to disengage from actually healing the 3-year-old that I won't ever get to meet, which is sad for Maria because I know my own 3-year-old. But I also know my 5-year-old, and I know my 8-year-old, and I got disowned by my twin at the age of 8, and I got told, thankfully, by my mother, it's not true. So I did not get my epistemic trust broken, which is why I can tell when I'm meeting a bad grown-up, and that's my 3-year-old who says, you're a liar, bad grown-ups. I can tell you think you know everything. Only God knows everything, and none of you are God, and you're also not Neil deGrasse. So learning to discern what's true is easy for those of us who have a ear for the timbre of truth, which involves humility. It involves I don't know everything. It involves that I can make mistakes. It involves being human. It involves being a functional inner child adult because you have no shame. Your ego isn't ashamed of making a mistake. And egos who instead are ashamed of making a mistake, they got shamed at their 3 years of age or some shit went down and their little narcissist bubble got poked. So they don't know how to play pretend. And then they don't know how to make mistakes and it's okay. And it's in here. I know how it's okay because it's, hey, I'm Maria. What do you want? Yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. Okay, so I get pretty pissy when I'm meeting people who I thought were going to do a great job at helping and then they're not. So learn to discern is good for you, but the reality is, why are you building wellness micro habits and mindset practices? Why do you journal? And so when somebody wants to tell me that, that wellness is a scribbly board, I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it makes me think you still suffer doing mindset practices. It means your body is suffering. That's effective realism right there. In a nutshell, we see the world the way we feel it. So your 3-year-old hasn't come out to play yet. You still got a teenager who's being an asshole and a dick because you don't know how to be nice because you're not a person who knows how to be vulnerable for real. Because that's the whole thing about a child is vulnerable and they're afraid. And I'm afraid too. And I can get sad too. And I can get angry too. I'm thinking of another thing I saw the other day. They're always, it's so, how can I explain this? My 3-year-old, she leads me. And my 16-year-old, when she comes in, she's just being a judgmental asshole because I'm tired of people who don't actually do their due diligence and learn from smart-ass people. And then they bring me in some bullshit equation and then I'm completely just disappointed by it. Then as a healthy perfectionist, I remind myself that we're all different. And so everybody can do their own research and then can decide, why am I doing what I do? If you do it for the right reasons, the micro habits, the mindset practices, you're doing it for your health, but also you're doing it grounded in reality, which means you have patience and perseverance, and then it's not a scribbly board. So the only reason people get frustrated or irritated when they are moving through the I can get happier every day, and we don't pursue happiness, we live it. That's your ventral pivot. It's because you really want a hug. The 1-year-old and 3-year-old really just want a hug. I just want to hear it's going to be okay, or I just want to feel at ease. That's that moment of the ventral pivot right now. I just did it. I just want it to be okay, but it's not a 16-year-old. It's a child and a 16-year-old. It's all the child parts, and some people are really uncomfortable with thinking of their inner world and their child parts, which tells me that they're in their childhood somewhere something happened, because I have no issue being that vulnerable, because I'm not afraid of my brothers and sisters, of being vulnerable with people. I'm also not ashamed of it. There's nothing to be, I have no shame, like active no shame with crying or being angry, but I don't need to get angry to the point of where I'm offline and I'm insulting someone or I'm demonizing or dehumanizing people, because that's not control what I'm talking about. This is called having access to your own intensity. In fact, the passion that comes from here, there's no comparison to that which I've perceived from people who don't have it yet, because they're still trying to get justice for whatever wrongs they were subject to as children growing up. And we all have an ego. It means we all will have felt like we were wronged by someone, even if it's just one human being on the face of this planet. And imagine those who never got a shot at actually acknowledging it from their own homes. Oh, I see them talking online. Yes, one person actually says with their one little finger, they're going to dismantle modern day therapists. And I'm like, sure you are. Whoever falls for your shit doesn't want to actually go welcome themselves. So discerning is when you can actually see through the BS, but it means that you are also a person who understands how to do, am I doing my best interest for the right reason? So when I go to subreddit, there's some groups there, and I actually answered a couple of them. One of which was saying, how can I trick my brain to think it's okay to not have a partner? And they were describing how they do all this wellness stuff and they're, great and happy about it, but every now and then, because they have no partner, they're like, why am I doing it? And I said, well, one, you don't want to trick your brain. Why would you want to trick your brain? That means you're going to trick yourself. We all want one securely attached figure. That's what the science is. So again, when you get a hold of what we're made of, humanly speaking, common sense is how I'm going to word it. We are all people that are meant to be together. We're social beings. No one's meant to want to isolate to the point of where they're all by themselves. And the groups that aren't welcoming of differences, that's unfortunate. That's actually, that's unfortunate because, let's not even go there. Okay, so let me recap so that anybody who's new and who's listening, how do we learn to discern trends from what actually works? Number one, you know yourself. That means you know how to wield your nervous system. So you do understand we all have effective realism. We all have child parts, or whatever words you want to use. So when you're doing mindset practices, you're reassuring yourself, but you're also processing a charge. That means you can forgive. Once you're established in your prefrontal cortex, you know that it takes you time. You don't put grief on a pedestal, anger on a pedestal. No emotion gets put on a pedestal, because that would be objectifying it, which means you're not going to continue growing. You're just going to pretend to grow and validate this emotion with a story. So what is processing? It's you. So we all have dopamine. Number one, dopamine detox. It's you find if there are any addictions at play for a person, like Dr. Daniel Fox describes, it actually has a matched, I forget the words he uses, but he says you're trying to soothe a nervous system that is actually under pressure. And I used to smoke cigarettes, so I know all about that. And when I quit, it was like one day to the next, like I never smoked. But that's because I wasn't addicted to the nicotine, and also because I found other ways to work with my nervous system, plus panic attacks. Really, you get used to breathing and the 15 minutes, and you're like, okay, tomorrow's going to be better. And as a mystic, also I knew my energy body was expanding, so you kind of have all these answers to yourself. So I continued building resilience. Oh, FYI, good neuroscientists, they inform you of how amazing the flow state is, which means if you do know what it's like, when it pushes you to the edge of criticality, you don't lose it. You stay calm and centered. No, you stay, let me think, how can I say this? You wield intensity. And that's really, really amazing. So you just feel like expanded. So when you're able to self-regulate, here's our ventral pivot. You're like, okay, I have all these emotions coming up. One of the times when this happened, the first time that I was able to self-regulate in the presence of somebody who was actually, we went from laughing together to me being yelled at. Want to know the future? I don't know why YouTube is giving me add a Q&A sticker. Oh, it went away. Okay, no, thank you. We don't need to know the future, not just yet. That's for when I come live with mystic stuff, but I'm not going to do that today. Anyways, point was, as my friend and I are having a good conversation, all of a sudden, because I say something to them, they are now yelling in my face. I was able to self-regulate. As emotions wanted to come up, I was like, not here, not now. We'll do it later. And we continue to engage and interact. Okay, so trends don't typically give you hey, it's a long-term, practice. People who don't want to hear it's a long-term practice, the micro habits, then you're not really into wellness. You're into wanting to think you want wellness. It's kind of like the gym. When people are going to the gym just to get ready for the summer, they're really not into their health. They're into looking good for the summer. So everybody knowing yourself, number one, amazing. You unlock your higher human potential if you want to. You don't have to go all the way. But when a trend tells you not everyone has resilience, and I personally, because I'm attachment trauma educated and I've gotten used to. So here's where I actually want to share with you something I wrote for the episodes. If you are curious, those who are tuning into the live, so the dopamine detox and predictable crash zone, I talked about these in 2 episodes. You will be able to spot their title somewhere on my main channel. I don't remember if I put them in a playlist, but just so you can understand, so the dopamine, we all use it as part of how we're motivated, something like that, the gist of it. The predictable crash zone, it's not 11 to 20 days. That's not peer reviewed. What is peer reviewed for a crash zone, so if you're bringing forth new habits, day 1 to day 14. That's actually when you'll stop doing the new habit, which makes sense. Is you're gonna want to integrate it, and it might not be part of your day-to-day. The average time it takes to make a habit regular was 66, if I remember those data points correctly. And in fact, the number went from, was it day 14 to day 245, something like that. So if you're going to bring in a new habit, you're going to do it regularly. And the fun part about this, for those of us who are conscious lovers, so we understand it, is that we're participating. So you're participating to your personal growth and your spiritual growth because you're mindfully, in fact, experiencing it because you're not overwhelmed by the emotions that arise from your nervous system. So when the person said, I want to trick my brain, I just pointed out we all need secure connection. We're human, we're social beings. And when you do personal growth and you take care of yourself the way you're talking, that's awesome. You're going to be the right person, the right friend, the right everything for all of the people, because you're going to know how to be unconditionally loving. And I didn't use those words, but I'm sharing it with you all because that's the whole point. It's not a trend to do wellness, micro habits, or mindset practices. It's a consistent desire to unlock your higher potential, because why wouldn't you? Meet yourself consistently where it's at, and that means nurture yourself. Your child parts are cool. You in your prefrontal, like Dr. Daniel Siegel says, you don't say your 0-1-year-old needs a hug, but you're going to give your 0-1-year-old a hug. And that's the part of being able to be vulnerable with yourself. And then when you see these trends that don't work, to be like, oh, I fell for the bullshit. Okay, well, now I know better. And then we also get to remind ourselves to check. So Neil deGrasse, he's a green. Dr. Daniel Siegel's a green. Let's see, Stephen Porges, Janina Fisher, Pat Ogden, Peter Levine. There are people who ask for self-help books. I say, read the Restorative Embodiment one by Alan Fogel. That's a great one. That, in fact, is one of my top choices. Let me see if I have the email open so I can read it to you. I think it's this one. Let's see. Nope. Give me 1 minute and I will actually give you all the books that I talked about in the self-help subreddit because they're good. And in case you want them, that's That's reliable sources. Okay, here we go. So to practice ownership of yourself is a day-to-day mindset and lifestyle choice. It goes beyond the trends that you will ever find. And we all build resilience. Yes, we have different measures of it, but as long as you know how to use your nervous system, so it means you are at ease in your body, you're at ease in your mind. You can discern when you have activated state, when you have effective realism. You do understand we're all emotional, so I'm a filter that will speak to you from my own subjective reality and emotional reality, but because I'm aware, accountable, and regulating with it, I'll be able to have an interaction with someone who will say, you know what, I think you're bullshit, Maria. And I'll be like, okay, I can understand why. I'm very different in how I bring forth information on episodes, but also I'm a mystic. And the fact is, I can totally understand why I sound boo. But I'm not bringing you micro habits that are fake. I do it all the time. I'm bringing you what is my body, brain is comfortable to be Maria. So for me, it's never been hard to pivot to my ventral, to recalibrate, to accept and welcome differences, to be compassionate towards myself and others, and to not feel shame if I make a mistake in a way of I'm really stupid. The only times I actually feel stupid is when I'm trying to gauge a kilometer. Because I have no idea. I can't embody a kilometer. So when I can't embody knowledge, I feel stupid because it's like a blank slate. My mind's like, you can explain it to me a million times, I still don't get it. But when it comes to discerning information, I'm very easily able to understand when I'm being given part of the information. Then I'm easily able to understand when I have the filter of the person who's given me the information, as they got an angle. My angle is I believe in you, and I believe in all of humanity having the capacity to unlock their higher potential. And so I believe that anybody can learn to discern trends, not be pissing their pants about it, meaning get defensive about it, and know that we all can fuck it up. But that we have peer reviews and people who do research and people who will continue to say, look, we don't have all the answers, but we have here's how much information we have. As long as you're epistemically curious, which means you like learning from the green sources like Neil deGrasse, and then you discern the other ones. I get information from the green sources, and then I can make a mistake and someone will point a finger and say, and I will understand why. But I'm not trying to set a trend, not trying to give you a shortcut. That's the one thing whenever I'm spotting anybody wanting a shortcut. The 10-minute pivot, the PDF, this free one that I have on PayHip, I say towards the end, if I remember correctly, I'm like, this won't solve all of what you're going through. But in the moment, it supports you with an exercise, the SMART framework, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable, to recalibrate yourself, handle the nervous system without a bad habit. We don't need to be doing any of those unhealthy habits or projecting our emotional charges. Instead, what we want to do is the abundance energy mode. I forgot to mention the regulated leader. So the two guides that are on PayHip for purchase, your sovereign blueprint, the regulated leader. The regulated leader is for people who are already comfortable with pivoting to their ventral vagal state. They want to continue using their abundance energy mode, because when you are able to self-regulate, that's why the trend doesn't do shit, because mindset is every day. But mindset is every day when you own the mind, because you own the brain, because you own the embodied brain. So it means you autonomously, independently of others, can self-regulate, and that means you co-regulate. And so the entire room will be filled with your ventral energy. And actually there's an episode on self-regulation and co-regulation, because I fucked that one up in one of the other episodes, which are part of the embodied self-leadership mindset and practice mindset and journal series. That one was on, where's my notes? I can't find, hold on. Right here, episode, give me 1 minute. Where is it? Thought I had it here. Yes, episode 4, relational integrity under pressure, episode 3. So in relational integrity under pressure, it's a short episode. I was talking about how I know how to self-regulate without co-regulating, and that's not it. We self-regulate and co-regulate. That's how it works. Otherwise, we're all dysregulating. So the books, before I forget. Restorative Embodiment and Resilience, a guide to disrupt habits, create inner peace, deepen relationships, and feel greater presence. This is by Alan Fogel. And that one is like a number one. If you have familiarity with your nervous system, you know how to use it, and you're happy to be yourself, then you are going to probably enjoy the book, learn it. I haven't read it yet, but that is the number one for putting into practice the good resilience. Then we have The Left Brain Speaks, the Right Brain Laughs. This one's funny for the ones of you who want a look at the neuroscience of innovation and creativity in art, science, and life by Ransom Stevens, PhD. And then our lovely Dr. Dennis Siegel, although I had him as number 2 on the list, but I share him now so that we can conclude as I roll out. Interconnected Mui, open parentheses, me plus we, close parentheses, as the integration of self, identity, and belonging by Daniel J. Siegel. And so those definitely can support you on a journey of owning yourself. And it's not a trend to own yourself and to work with your wellness. So when you're doing mindset journaling, when you're taking ownership of your somatic resource, for the spiritual ones, when we are able with Reiki or Akashic Record readings or tarot, we guide people and we support people. But if those people don't integrate their ego and self, their own childhood, and it's actually not a story, it's the honoring, and that's why it's so personal when somebody reclaims who they are, and it's such an honor that they can do that, and that then I get to meet the essence of you and your sovereign blueprint. Besides effective realism and talking a little bit about that from Lisa Feldman Barrett, there is also Schwartz, Richard Schwartz. I quote him, even though I don't know if it's an exact quote, but where he talks about how when you have your higher self in the lead, people will have access to their emotional charges, to their essence, and to have the capacity to be all of you. And so that's what I'm describing. And when I see people who are not all of themselves, I can tell because they typically want the old way. So the lady who dismantles modern day therapists, the reason they get followed by a bunch of people is because people don't want to explore their inner world because they're not comfortable. In fact, actually, here's where lovely Deb Dana describes a very specific way someone will feel when they're not comfortable with their ventral yet. And they're sitting with a good therapist, and they're sitting with it for like not even 5 seconds. And the thought that crosses the mind is, something bad will happen if I feel something good. So when I see trends that are trying to tell people how to do mindset and wellness, but it's not the real deal, it's not because they're not giving some valid information. They usually will have grabbed some information from sources, and then they will have created something that is leveraging a suffering pain point. And here's where, if you're doing wellness or anything with the I'm going to get rid of complete all of big charges. See, I don't suffer life, I don't suffer emotions, but my point is when people are only going to be motivated when something is at play. So here's the Dr. Daniel Fox and how he explains stability is repetition. But there are people who feel that intensity, not regulated intensity, it means chaos, so coming in and out, poking each other. That's why when I say the yucky dopamine, I'm talking about people who don't know how to be motivated consistently with ease in their body because they need to be afraid that they're going to lose something in order for them to be motivated. And so that's actually where it's unfortunate business that there are people who don't notice themselves to the point of where they'll fall for a dopamine detox, or they'll fall for this predictable crash zone. Once it fails, they'll say that the self-help tools are broken. And I'll say, no, you stop trying to fix your life by using self-help because your life, one, isn't broken, but really what you want is nervous system sovereignty, number one. That's how you're going to gain self-mastery. Once you have self-mastery, then you're going to have the capacity to be able to learn how to discern trends. Remember that mindset and micro-habits are a long-term, consistent, participatory choice. You don't have to do it. You don't have to unlock that which is your higher potential. You don't even have to achieve a consistent happy state. And I was trying to find the Substack article for you guys. But at the end of the day, what's most important is if you're doing it for the right reasons, you're going to continue to want to bring forth who you are to the world, because why would you want to suppress or shame you? But the people who don't understand that they don't bring forth who they are when they're actually holding back, the same ones who prefer to think of the modern day therapists as the new paradigm as something that's bad, versus it's not bad. It's helping people who have finally been able to forgive themselves, understand where the maladaptive patterns come from. Dr. Daniel Fox, again, he's so awesome with his information on how addictions can be reworked with once you find out what their job is and you understand that they're helping to soothe an overwhelmed nervous system. You get an opportunity to work with yourself. So the micro habits is you're going to be self-led because you're working with that which is a body that you know and that you love, and then you're wanting to share not just the solo self, not just the body, but you have a relational self. You want to share with our society, our community, our world, that which is who you are. So here's where relational integrity under pressure comes into the mix, which is why the regulated leaders, for those who do understand the importance, spiritual mystic know it. You don't teach compassion if you can't have it for yourself and others. You can't walk a walk and talk a talk. I learned it from Jesus, how to forgive. And then Dr. Daniel Siegel expands on that by saying you process a charge. You don't put grief on a pedestal. So trends make people think they're doing something. I say you're not, and you could have noticed it had you actually cared about yourself. But wait, you don't want to believe. Find it hard to believe. The first use of life. You don't want to believe that your childhood needs an actual good therapist like a Dr. Daniel Siegel, because you're not wanting to admit that it's not a problem. As this lovely lady who wrote a book said, she has DID and she's healed from it. I want people to know that they're not broken, but they're fixable. I don't know what it's like to be broken because I never got broken as a 3-year-old. I have no shame. I'm Maria. I make mistakes. And I like to cry and I like to get angry. No, I have all the emotions. I like to actually master that which is called playful mastery of intensity. We're going to talk about that one. That'll be our 5th and last episode for the embodied self-leadership entry. But I really want to share what I wrote on Substack. So hold on, guys and gals and days. Here we go. Let me share with you. I'm going to view the post just once. I don't want to subscribe to my own. From belief to trend, discernment, dopamine detox, and the predictable crash. I almost believed these to be true. Then I realized they are trends. They don't work and they don't have you engage in journaling, mindset practices, and micro habits the right way. I start with, when a wellness trend, book, or speaking event pops up on your feed promising a total life reset, it easily creates an illusion. Number one, which is why people pick on me and say, you're faking it. And no, I've just been practicing it since I was a kid. The ventral pivot. You put your left foot in and your right foot in and you shake it all about. So check out PayHip if you do want the free PDF guide, and if you want to check out your sovereign blueprint and the regulated leader. So these trends, these books, the ones who give you their story but don't give you, hey, do you know your embodied brain by chance? Just make sure you can wield it completely. Once you do, then you'll have fun with all people because you're playing in the game of life, but we're not calling it virtual reality, please. I am the woo-woo pseudoscience lady. As Neil deGrasse points out, the earth is round. It's not a new paradigm, but the flat earthers, like the old paradigm of the earth is flat, and they don't know. Smart people say that our ancestors never thought the earth was flat. They actually knew, the smart ones. So there's a whole thing behind this whole flat earth thing. Okay, so let me leave it alone, but it makes micro habits, mindset practices, or journaling feel like a one-stop shop. Done deal. Which is why some guy's going to be like, those wellness, mindfulness experience, they're all bullshit. No, we're not bullshit. We just know how to do the ventral pivot dance. And we keep doing it. But that's the part. I have good resilience. I've been doing it. I have a 3-year-old. She has no shame. I got a 16-year-old. I'm taming her. No, she's not going to get tamed. But she is. I'm trying to work with my judgmental asshole. That way I can sound a lot more fun. And we can also remember we all have a 3-year-old. I don't want to do diet. I don't want to do that. We're doing the diet. That's me. 3 days before. Hi. 3 days before a nutritionist diet, which has done wonders. My IBS, gone. Panic attacks, they were already doing better. Now I don't have the lightheadedness at all. Like, okay, cool. In fact, I need to update the Mystic nutritionist. There's a Mystic diary I have. So anyways, a growth mindset, wellness micro habits, and mindfulness practices. They aren't about jumping on every passing wave. That part we already know, right? So well-being is about cultivating nervous system sovereignty, as we've been talking about, training the mind to pause before it consumes, and eventually mastering the mind to do this, the practice of discernment to flow naturally, like notes of music reaching your ears or beautiful waves crashing in the distance on a serene beachfront. When I'm discerning, that's how it feels. So I'm learning more and more how when I'm consuming something, if it feels off, it's not because my gut is right or wrong. I'll just say, let me go double check. So when I got a hold of this neuroscience new thing on Instagram, I'm like, oh, good neuroscience. I read through the first slides. It was good. Then I got a second. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. They say never. Or what? It was something about not all people. But the way it was like a statement. I'm like, no. And I went to look it up, and I was right. So resilience. We all have resilience. That dynamic and how it plays out, you can look up. I haven't written down the resources for that one yet. But the reflection embodied self-leadership framework. So I want to share with you what I created in case you don't go to Substack. Just like shifting our ventral state requires a conscious pivot, training our discernment requires a deliberate pause. Try running the information that crosses your feed or comes to you through books, speakers, and events through these 3 checkpoints. The reaction pause. I almost reacted, then I remembered sovereignty is a choice. The source check. I almost believed it to be true, then I remembered to check reliable sources. And so my go-to is AI, Gemini, Google, ChatGPT. Who peer-reviewed? What peer reviews are there on this specific da-da-da-da-da? And I want to check the peer reviews. And then, okay, how many different studies are there? That's why I found out we have like a handful of objective truths. So what's the samples? What is this? And I continue asking, and I know that AI can make mistakes. So it's like, okay, once I get the gist of it, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go to Neil deGrasse or whoever it is that's science related in a smart way. They're grounded in reality, and I'm going to try and figure it out. Or maybe I'll just get the gist of it, and usually it is easily going to the trend discernment. I almost believed it would work, then I reminded myself to discern if it's a trend or not. So the dopamine detox doesn't work once you go and look it up from reliable sources. We all have dopamine, and it's in different ways and forms. Resilience, everyone will be able to engage in good resilience because of nervous system sovereignty. When it comes to wellness microhabits and mindset practices, you want to know that to build the habit takes the average of 66 days, as I shared with you. And I forget if it was from day 14 till 245, but the crash zone, the real life crash zone, is from day 1. You could give up on day 1 to day 14 because the novelty immediately is wearing off. And so here's where your commitment to your own growth, is it because of you wanting to be seen by others as doing a great job, or is it because you actually know, wow, when I'm comfortable in my own skin, being myself, even when I make a mistake, even if it's a huge mistake, but it's not a huge mistake in the way of what others will have gone through before they actually claim themselves, I feel good. No. I don't have to overthink it to the point of where I'm going to get sick or sad or upset, so that you can have a good release, a good cry, a good chat, a good angry like vent moment. But as you build resilience from your ventral, and you have eustress, and you're comfortable with all of the vulnerable emotions from your 0 to 16-year-old, all your child parts are asleep, your prefrontal cortex, they come up, and you're like, yeah, I have emotions, they come up. It is easy for you to have emotional expressions and not get overwhelmed. Trends don't allow that to happen. They give you like a one-stop shop thing. It's going to be over. That is not how life works. Personal growth and spiritual growth are for the rest of your life. But you'll only begin it when you begin to ventral pivot, because until the day you're using what lovely, where are you, Pat? Not Pat Ogden, Deb Dana. As she points out, the struggle for those who didn't have the capacity to feel safe and feel good in their bodies. They have therapists, they're going, right? So let's stop and notice the ventral for 5 to 10 seconds. This is how Deb Dana is talking about this on a 1-minute short. She says, even if we just stop for 5 seconds as you notice something intentionally, or as you notice the ventral intentionally, what should be an amplifying experience, she says, can quickly become a dampening experience, because you will notice that by putting attention on it, the person who didn't receive, it's okay to be me, will begin to think, if I feel good, something bad is going to happen. If everything is smooth, something's going to come and knock that down. And so this being comfortable with being comfortable is something that a person will practice. And it's when the thought comes up, something bad will happen. When I feel something good, that's this narrative. No ego, nothing bad will happen. We can feel good. It's our nervous system talking, our embodied brain, and our child parts, or whatever it was. And so this is why integration of your whole self is what matters, because your 0-1-year-old lives through you, your 3-year-old, your essence lives through you. And people who don't have a good relationship with their essence can today, thanks to the mindful therapist, have one. Number one, trends don't do them a service. But somebody wanted to tell me that wellness, micro habits, and that mindset is hard. No, it's not. Or that spiritual growth is bullshit. Well, whatever. I will say that a spiritual toolkit, in the absence of you owning yourself, and that means your nervous system and your child parts, sure, people can continue. 3D, 4D collective. I was told they were going to stick around. I know who they are. And then I remind myself that God never gives us more than what we can handle, and that fear-based leaders use shame and distortions, and they all hang around each other like Diego's family from Ice Age to continue perpetuating lies, because they're the liars, not the other way around. So I don't need everybody to know what love is, but all we need is love, and healthy fear comes with that. So being able to cry and be okay with being vulnerable is our capacity today in our era, because we don't need to use self-help tools with the think positive only. It's self-help helps those who have nervous system sovereignty, 1. Self-help helps those who do discern trends and know what wellness and what the investment of your time is worth and why. So we are in an era where epistemically curious people can connect together. And so our human development in the past didn't have the science and spirituality coming together. Those who want to continue using competitive words between it are the same people who won't be joining us because they think one has to be right and the other wrong, which, by the way, is the emblem of the left by itself, which are all the masculines. They're divisive because they think we're all right and you're all wrong. And that's a person who's still proving themselves and is using the old sympathetic pathway. So the human development comes with somatic mastery, nervous system sovereignty, and it comes with us together saying everyone can unlock their higher human potential. Anchor your growth mindset and micro habit practices with ventral energy alignment, but they don't have to. In the meantime, wellness comes from intentional living, so you build profound resilience by staying grounded, connected, and present within your sovereign blueprint as a regulated leader of yourself. That's not a trend. It's actually quite empowering. So it's liberating when you're welcoming all of you. It's liberating when anybody else is welcoming you. If somebody doesn't welcome you in your wholeness, it's not going to imprison you. You actively know how to do the ventral pivot. Then as you differentiate and link, like Dr. Daniel Siegel presents, your embodied. And as lovely Terry Real presents, it's a biosphere. And as I like to tell you, no one fucks with our biosphere or our embodied sphere, because regulated leaders know how to maintain that which is relational integrity and self-integrity. And that's why we welcome each other consistently with open arms and love, because there's no need to cancel people. Most people don't know how to handle their differences. So when there's misalignments, they get into these moods. We all can be misaligned, and then we realign, because that's why we differentiate and link. So we connect. And we all have different beliefs and different places we come from, but being verb-like, as Dr. Daniel Siegel points out, the verb is where you're expanding yourself. The ones who don't want to, they are actually going to be, I'm going to leave that for our next episode. Okay, so as a conscious individual and consumer, you remember what personal and spiritual growth truly entail, choosing not to outsource your authority to an algorithm. This is consistent dedication and repetition, with curiosity at the forefront, and integrity over time. Be yourself the smart way, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, and teachable. And if you do wish to anchor this practice, you can check out PayHip, where you will find the free 10-minute ventral pivot mindset practice on a lovely PDF and more than just that. So you can check me out on Substack, follow TikTok, YouTube. Of course, you're all here. And in the meantime, let's see, as we close on out, let me, in case you got all the way to the end or somebody pops in. So learning to discern trends from what actually works to build wellness micro habits and mindset. It is, number one, the capacity to be curious and to know yourself. So when you know how to wield your own nervous system, you're able to use your somatic resource and your mental resource. And if you're spiritual, you're able to know that it's that one frequency. And when we have channels or downloads, it's not going to be confusing. Your gut isn't always right, but you do want to notice it. And that's because sometimes I went to diet. That's a 3-year-old who's just wanting to control things. So we have the capacity to wield our own thoughts and our own emotions for our best health, and then also for those. And so here's the capacity to self-regulate, and then to continue doing what we do best, understand that trends are for those who are going to use them, and that they do have some truths in them, but just double check those green sources. And at the end of the day, knowing that wellness comes over time, and that you're the one who chooses how your biosphere and how you are going to consistently interact with you and others, and relational integrity under pressure. If you are a person who looks forward to a good foundation of the IPNB framework and the PDP framework and then the polyvagal theory, it is the regulated leader that gives you that foundation. So it means you're already practiced in that which is regulating yourself, and you do enjoy being able to master that which is the best environment in any given moment, because you can. So you have the space. Emotionally mature people, the emotionally intelligent collective, that's our higher human potential. All people can do it. If they get mesmerized by a trend and then disappointed, if they're smart, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable, they will learn from the experience. They won't become rigid from it. They will learn, they will expand, and then they will continue to notice. We have our green sources, like Neil deGrasse points out, are yellow. I'm pretty much thinking I'm in there. I can make a mistake. I can fuck it up. But I'll share that and where I get all the information, and then I will try to see if I find out new information. The red, I'm going to say, are the ones who are completely, let's just respect flat earthers. And I'll end with our lovely Neil deGrasse. As he points out, you can know enough about a subject matter to think you're right, but not enough about the subject matter to know you're wrong. And as he also points out, the less connected you are to what is objectively true, the less likely you are able to make decisions that will benefit your life, the life of your family, even civilization itself. And as he says, science is true whether you believe in it or not. And here's why, for me as a spiritual one, I say God already, where I grew up, I found out we were perfect. Today, science proves our perfection. But as I do know, we do have that free will. It is, if some people don't want to get nervous system sovereign, they don't want to because it's hard, because it's all explained why, we're not going to be able to make them. In the meantime, those who evolve, we don't shame, we don't use distortions, and we don't do the divisive dance. We love, we know what the truth is, we know objective truths, and then we know our subjective truths are subjective for reasons that involve emotions, thoughts, and the amount of information we have and don't have. And so we just continue to discern trends, because that's what we do, so that we can ensure that we support our species and our community to grow better. But we also can accept if somebody says, I don't need anything, Maria, what do you want? Leave me alone. And in the meantime, it's an emotionally immature people who's dysregulated person and or people, and who completely is not well, but they've chosen, and they're committing to validate their own choice, their own ego. And that's the moment of truth. To the Cains of the world, we say, you're all love, but we can't make people become, they're securely attached, healthy, self-worth, empowered individuals. They haven't even liberated themselves to be themselves yet, and that's a personal journey. You can't make someone go on. So at the end of the day, thank you for showing up. Thank you for tuning in, whether you tuned in when we're live or at the end. It was great to chit chat. If you have any questions, Substack is a place to go. There's a chat section, and we'll be back again with more. Check out PayHip also in case, and spread the word for those of you who know others who do have nervous system sovereignty. And it's going to be fun to be back. So have a good one.